Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Future Now. This is AAU's Industrial Design Program's Scholarship Pitch Night. We have a fun night planned for you. We're going to have 10 pitches. Each one of them is going to be 5 to 10 minutes long. And at the end of the evening, we're going to be recognizing students and awarding 4 scholarships. One is going to be for Best Product Design. The other is going to be Best Transportation Design, and then Best Overall. And then we're also going to ask you, the attendees, to vote for the People's Choice Award as well. So Antonio and I are going to be hosting tonight. My name is Mark Bullock. I'm the graduate director at the Academy of Art University's Industrial Design Program. And my co-host is Antonio Borja, who is the director of the undergrad program.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay, so tonight we are joined by 6 judges who are going to be assessing the students' work. Chin Lee is actually a graduate of our program. Oops. And she is currently working with a Fuse project in San Francisco, and she is heavily involved in the IDSA. Basak Altan is also heavily involved in IDSA. She's come to the school to critique work along with Chin Lee. She also has her own business as a strategist and is also a fellow educator. Derek Jenkins is one of 2 automotive designers that we have on the panel tonight. Derek is the VP of Design at Lucid Motors, and Nick Malachowski is our second automotive designer. He is the Director of Advanced Design at Rivian. Jonathan Tai happens to be a graduate of our program as well. He's come back to speak to the students. He's a partner at Hatch Duo, and I think within the past couple of years launched a watch line. Alex Coriano is a teacher at the school. He's also an alumni of IDEO, and he's the creative force behind Diamond MMA. So our 6 judges are going to be looking at the 10 students' work and really trying to understand the research and design that's gone into their projects. They're going to be also judging it for innovation and marketability, and they'll be taking a close look at the students' visual communications as well. As I mentioned before, we have 10 students presenting tonight. Each one of them is going to have 5 minutes to present their projects. The judges will be given another 5 minutes to ask questions, maybe give some quick feedback. These are the 10 students that the Industrial Design Department selected based on 35 entries in the spring show. So we've boiled it down to these 6 product design projects, and then in the second half of today's evening, we're going to be going over 4 transportation design projects. So as our judges are looking at work, you, the attendees, can also participate by clicking on the link above, and I believe it will be in our chat box as well. That will give you direct access to the 35 spring show projects that I mentioned a second ago. You can scrub through those and decide which one is your favorite, and then click on SurveyMonkey to cast your vote. This is open to everybody, designers, non-designers, teachers, faculty, friends, family. So please click on that link, take a look at the projects. You'll recognize the 10 that are being presented today as well. And then quickly jump over to SurveyMonkey before the end of the evening, probably around 7:25. jump over to SurveyMonkey and cast your single vote for your favorite project. So we're going to start with those first 6 product design projects. Our first presenter is Sumish Das, and she is going to be presenting her project from this spring, Nike Ascend.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Hey everyone, I'm Shumi, and I'm a final year student at Academy, focusing on footwear design. So have you ever guys seen anybody sprinting on a vertical wall? Most likely not, because they are called speed climbers. Now imagine a rocket is taking off. The thrill, the adventure we feel is the same feeling we get when we see speed climbers. So what's common between a rocket and a speed climber? Well, they both defy gravity. Now, I am not a speed climber, but I'm an outdoor person and I love outdoor sports. Recently, when I was hiking in Mount Cook area, I struggled, and that made me realize that if hiking sometimes is so difficult, how difficult could be rock climbing? And I'm also afraid of height. So when I see these amazing athletes scale these tall walls, I'm always in awe. And it also happened that last year I met couple of rock climbers. Their insight and my interest for outdoor sports made me do this project. So what is this project? So I have designed a speed climbing gear for Nike because they do not have this category. And the category, the gear consists of shoes and gloves. And I intend to launch this during Paris Olympic 2024. So what is speed climbing? Well, it is one form of indoor rock climbing where 2 athletes climb on a 15-meter wall next to each other. It's an identical wall, and they get only 10 seconds. And whoever reaches the top first, that athletes win. As of now, the women wall record on a 15-meter wall is 6.99 seconds, and every pro climber is trying to get to that 5-second mark. Now, is it even possible to get to that 5-second mark? Well, for any speed climber, starting and ending are very important, as well as covering the middle distance. So if I can cut down 1 second from both ends, it may be possible. But in order to do that, I have to focus on 2 key movements that they do. One is smearing on the wall, and the second one is jumping and bouncing on the ledges. Now, when they smear on the wall, they need volume, a higher contact area. And when they jump and bounce on the wall, so I have to give some kind of a structure that can propel them further. So I've designed this project in 3 phases. First, I was focused on the aggressiveness of the shoe because as I was designing for speed climbing and it's an aggressive sport. So I was focused on aggressiveness of the shoe, but not necessarily having too much of downturn or arc because that is not needed for the sports. And that's why the first design doesn't work. On a second phase, I was focused on the form and the lightweight of the shoe. I was inspired by shark because shark has very distinct features, shape, and that help them to move faster in nature as well as for their skin. And I also started using lacing. But when I moved to the third phase, where I was focusing on fit, I realized that lacing is not needed for this shoe. So for fit, I wanted the exact fit because today every climber, they wear 1 or 2 size smaller shoes because they want that exact fit. So the challenge was, is it possible to achieve that exact fit? Well, if I use 3D printed biofabric, it may be possible because that can mold into athlete's fit. So I decided to use that for upper. Then I also added a extended width in 4-foot area so that they get the bigger volume that I mentioned earlier. And then I also added Nike Zoom for that better propulsion so that they can better bounce on the ledges. This was more refined concept of my design where I started thinking about the logo placement, the color, how the shoe will come together, where I have to focus in terms of the shoe, because for this shoe, the front is more important than the back. And this exploded view will show you how the shoe, if it is manufactured, will come together. Okay, and this is the final design of my shoe. I used black because, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted my product to look aggressive, and black define aggressiveness. Also added blue because blue is a symbol of stability. I wanted to communicate that through my design. And without being loud, I also added pink shush because I wanted to communicate I designed this product keeping women athletes in mind. After designing for pro athletes, I wanted to design something for younger athletes who are just starting up the sports. And through my research, I realized that many younger athletes slip on the wall because they do not have a better grip on their fingers. And for that, they use either chalk or tape on their fingers. So I was thinking, is it possible to have some kind of a minimalistic sleeve that can replace chalk and tape? So I came up with this design where it is very minimalistic sleeve design, where the focus is only on index and middle finger because these are the two important fingers for any speed climbers. So I added anti-skid finger grip in the front and added latex rubber for better protection. And the overall gloves is made out of bamboo, stretchable bamboo fabric. And this is the final design of my glove. Again, I used blue because I wanted to communicate it's a stable product. And yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm not a speed climber. I wish I was, but I'm not. But the best thing I could do, I could design some gears for these amazing athletes. And that's how I lived my last few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumi. Judges, we have probably enough time for one, maximum 2 questions.
I'm a little bit curious about the material you're talking about. 3D printed bioplastic, that's what you mentioned?
Yeah, it's like the Nike has started using their Flyknit. They use Flyknit, right? Now they have started using Flyprint. So it's the same thing, they're doing 3D printed form. So I was thinking to use biofabric, but which is 3D printed, because that will be more like eco-friendly. Because athletes, like, this is a sports where they perform outdoor, and climbers are very fond of environment. So I was thinking to use some kind of environment, eco-friendly fabric for my project.
Okay.
I think we have time for maybe one more question from the judges.
Sumista, did I say it right?
Got it.
Okay. Great work.
Thank
and I have a few questions. Maybe I missed it in the internet connection. Perhaps you explained it, but what is the benchmark that you're working off of? So what is there that is not working currently? And how do you think your product is better?
Okay, so at the beginning, there is no speed climbing shoe. There is a climbing shoe that speed climbers wear. That's at the beginning. So this will be completely a new category, a new thing for speed climbers. Now, the climbing shoes that speed climber wears, those are very narrow and very tight, but that is not meant for speed climbing, because speed climbing is only for 10 seconds, and you do not need a shoe that is meant for bouldering or lead climbing or any other types of climbing, right? So I was thinking that because there is nothing available for them, so that's why they end up wearing other climbing shoes, which is available in the market, right? But speed climbing is completely different than other climbing, because first thing, they sprint on the wall. First thing. Second thing, they literally jump, smear on the wall. For that, they need a volume to smear on the wall, right? And if you see climbing shoes, the bottom is very narrow for climbing shoes. So I extended the bottom, so I given a wider outer sole so they can better smear on the wall. So yeah, that's what I did. And then as I was doing the design, I was also talking to a few climbers, and looks like it may work.
Okay, it's sometimes helps to ground your presentation if you give a number. This many people do speed climber. Here is the market analysis that I know there is a need. This is why I'm solving this problem. So connect your passion to a need. So that would be my brief feedback. I'll
All right.
mute
Thank you.
myself now so others can.
Actually, Vastak, thank you very much. We've actually surpassed the 10-minute mark. So let's move to the next student.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zobia Khan. I'm very appreciative that you all took the time to be here today. This project is one that's very dear to me. It deals with issues of mental health. And through my own battles with PTSD and depression and coming from a culture that doesn't really recognize mental illness in any capacity, really, you begin to see the sheer amount of people you lose to their own minds. And it shows you like how important it is to achieve any semblance of stability, really. And in order to create a project that worked towards that, I had to look into the base facts of it. And there we go. I found that 1 in 4 people, sorry guys, bear with me here. I found that 1 in 4 people worldwide battle with mental illness, and that treatment is available, but it's not used. And this is due to things like overt stigma, neglect of self, not having access to resources, and some people not even knowing what they need access to. And through my research, trying to approach this in a small way, or trimming a small hedge in a very large landscape, so to speak, I came across this concept of enclothed cognition. This essentially is it's a systematic influence that clothes have on the wearer's psychological processes. This is essentially, you adapt characteristics of the clothing that you put on in the morning. And because this project is symbolic to its very core, I thought the shoe was most appropriate as a metaphor for a foundation and what grounds us. And a big part of the project is accessibility. It's a very important part of this project to me. And mobile wellness and health app usage has skyrocketed over the past few years. And this in itself creates so much opportunity at our very fingertips that I had to incorporate it somehow. Now, with the shoe design itself, there were certain key concepts I wanted to embody from the get-go. The ebbs and flows of the ocean, like those of one's emotions, transparency of communication and feeling in one's layers, and finally support, structurally and in a way that comforts the user. Now, this design, as they all do, went through many exploratory phases in terms of messaging and symbolism and silhouettes, as you can see here. But eventually it narrowed to embody physical aspects of a layered flow and visible grounding, as you can see here. And this ultimately resulted in a final design that looked like this. Now, these prominent tabs read inhale and exhale in universal Morse code. And that is a way of putting something out there, or this was initially intended as a way to put something out there for the user that no one else necessarily had to read into or pick up on. But eventually it actually read to me in a way that the user could be reminded that they could stay centered and steady in moments of instability. And you can actually see the direction that it's written in here. Just like that. Now this shoe is supported by a well-encased structure around a merino wool upper. This emphasizes the comfort and security of the shoe itself. At the heel, it reads one step at a time, facing outwards in solidarity to those around us that may be fighting their own battles. And as a reminder that we are constantly walking on the ups and downs of not only our minds, but life itself, the outsole is ribbed with a wave pattern. I'd like to show you guys a little video on a mock-up of the app that I mentioned earlier. in a very tragic coincidence, the world has become very isolated and traumatized in many ways overnight. And people are having to face their mental health in ways they haven't had to before, and in many cases alone. And my hope for this project that we as creators is that we as creators can come together to create this kind of aid and access to people, for everyone who really needs it right now. Thank you for listening.
Sylvia, that was fantastic. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Before we have the judges ask you a few questions, I wanted to welcome Dr. Stevens. Lisa, are you still here?
I am. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm very happy to
Say
be
a few
here.
words.
Well, I'm very proud of our industrial design program, and I'm very excited to see the student work and all the good effort that they've put in, as well as thank our judges for coming out and giving their time, and commend our faculty and you, Mark, and Tomitano and Antonio for all the good hard work you've done in our program to make it better for our students. And I welcome the students, and I'm looking forward to seeing their work.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stevens. Okay, let me hand this over to the judges. Judges, we have approximately 4 minutes to ask Sylvia any questions. Let's start with maybe 1 or 2 questions.
I had one. Zobia, first of all, great job. I think the shoe is beautiful. I had a question about like more along the lines of mental health and impact. So I just wanted to kind of clarify, like what does the user actually gain? Is it more like a visceral thing that when they wear it, it's a solidarity item of mental wellness, or is there an app that goes along with it? Like what, you know, in terms of like the physical aspects of it, like what's going on?
Okay, so the project in itself, first of all, thank you for asking, otherwise I would have forgotten to clarify. But the shoe in itself, my problem was that initially I was designing footwear, and it was a footwear project. And in designing it, I thought, yeah, like the, in clothes cognition, sure, they'll adapt the behavior of this like symbolic wave shape, all these symbols on the shoe, but it's not gonna do as much as I want it to do. And to take that further, looking into accessibility, I designed an app that came with it. So in its working stages, this app essentially scans a QR code on the outsole of the shoe that's embedded there, and that gives you access to resources. Now, this is not only limited to, or this is still not only limited to the footwear in itself. It's not an app that is only accessible through the footwear, because that would kind of ruin the point of accessibility, but it is a partnership between something digital and something aesthetic, something that, sneakerheads, people wearing like something that people are into normally and they can actually put out there, but not necessarily make too much of a statement of if people want to be discreet about it.
Sure. So basically, like this shoe is basically like one representation, but you can imagine multiple different SKUs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. We have about 1.5 minutes, maybe one more question.
I think just to follow up Jonathan's question, I think would be really helpful to talk a little deeper on that. How is the ecosystem, right? The physical shoes, and then the app. How is it going to encourage people? How is it going to support people from a mental health perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to suggest me to go out to take a walk? Do some strength training, for example, so to help you to release, get release. And also, would be really helpful to get a little bit specific about what aspect on mental health, because mental health is a huge area. So you're focusing on release stress, or you're focusing on help to overcome depression. I think there's a one step further. Maybe you can continue to enrich this project.
Of course, yeah. mental, like you said it yourself, mental health being such a broad scope and so many different types of issues being in play, the purpose of the app in itself was to find resources for general mental health resource, like what do they call it? Hotlines, emergency hotlines, and the resources for many free therapy or free consultations that you can access that people don't know they have access to, like I'm forgetting the names right now, but there's many resources even within our city and within SF that people can get a hold of but think they can't because everything's rumored to be so expensive, and this is more of a broad approach to mental health in itself. I think down the line I would love to really look into specific issues, but my issue with inclusivity is that I don't want to take anything out of this whole like group under the umbrella of mental health. I don't want to exclude anything. So having the broader helplines available was my goal with this project. And you said it yourself with the shoe being a way to encourage you to go take a walk and go show them off or go outside, because sunlight is great for mental health. Like that's something that's not elaborated enough, or it's overlooked too much, and something that's as simple as fresh air. You know, it's just something that people don't remember to do. And inhale and exhale in itself, written on the shoe, is just a further reminder of that.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. So as we're waiting for Blaine to come up and
I'm here.
I want to remind all of our guests and attendees to click on our Spring Show list and take a look at the entire 35 projects that made it to Spring Show, and then click on the Survey Monkey link that's in the chat box to cast a vote. We have several projects that aren't actually in the show that are getting votes, and some of them are neck and neck. So I have a feeling that every single vote is going to count.
So the name of my project is Uhuru. It means freedom in Swahili, the most widely recognized and spoken language in the continent of Africa. I chose this name for my project because it's all about giving Black creative professionals the freedom to express themselves using their everyday tools. So this is a story about time travel through 3 different eras of Black creativity: past, present, and future. For each era, I chose a muse or a target consumer who I interviewed extensively that I felt best represented the aesthetics and functions of each era. Next. Next slide. The first bag is called Zora. Next. It's inspired by the Harlem Renaissance, a period through the 1920s and 30s in New York City, where African-American artists were migrating in the hundreds and thousands towards the north for creative freedom in a time where Black literature, art, and music was first becoming legitimized in mainstream American culture. Next slide. During my sketching exploration, I looked a lot at jazz music. I took inspiration from things like the spatula keys on saxophones, which was a super key instrument in the music of the time. I looked at the graphic design from the covers of popular publications, and the silhouette of the bag was inspired by the heavy suitcases that Black people carried as they migrated north. Next. The bag can be worn 2 ways. This is because my muse for this project, Noelle, who's a museum administrator, told me that she can't wear a backpack at work because of the restrictions of walking through museum hallways, although she commutes to work on a bike or a bus, and she currently is carrying a tote bag and a backpack. I combined these 2 functions into one to make this process easier for her. Next. Additionally, she carries her lunch to work every day, so I designed a removable leather lunch case from the bottom of the bag. And because she's a creative professional and she's always on the go, I created stationary slots in the top inner flap of the bag so that she can have easy access to all of her work. Next. The bag is named Zora, and it's named after Zora Neale Hurston, one of the most influential writers of the Harlem Renaissance. I was inspired by her because she came to New York City with nothing but $5 and a suitcase, and I wanted to capture the possibilities and the optimism of that mindset. Next. The second bag is called Uhuru, and it's inspired by contemporary African artists living on the continent today. Next. I took inspiration from the rich and vibrant colors of photographers from Ghana, such as Prince Jassy, artists such as Sir J. Clotley, who use repurposed oil cans that are dumped on the continent by other nations, and the indigenous body art, tattoos, and scarring of African tribes throughout time. Next. My sketching focused on exploring ideas that would combine the aesthetic qualities I wanted to use and the functional elements that my consumer, Sanai, needed. He's a fashion designer, so he carries a toolbox around with him everywhere. I knew I wanted to use the yellow oil can as inspiration, and I saw that that would work with a heavy, sturdy base so that he could carry his toolbox at the bottom. And I took a lot of inspiration from Nsibidi, an ancient African symbol language from modern-day Nigeria, for the hardware. And I took inspiration for the strap language from the way the Maasai people of Kenya carry fabric across their shoulders. Next. During the prototyping, I looked at different ways that he could access his belongings, as well as enough functional utility to carry his sketchbook in the front of his bag, and looking at different sizes and options that would work. Next. The final details of this bag include an internal tool roll for him to carry his seam ripper, pens and pencils, scissors, and 2 front-facing pockets to carry his phone and tape, and utility straps for his sketchbook, as well as some hand-stitched details because he's a fashion designer that appreciates those details, and a zipper top for easy access. Next. The hardware in the front of the bag is taken also from Nsibidi symbol language, and the buckle adjusters are inspired by the symbol for freedom. Next. The embossing on the outside of the bag is also inspired by indigenous tribal scarring. Next. The final bag is called Futur, and it's inspired by Afrofuturism, representing the final stop in our time travel journey. This is a combination of technology, fantasy, and liberatory aesthetics seen through the context of Pan-African imagination. Next. My sketches focused on looking at how I could combine modern features and avant-garde silhouettes with a simple minimal style that my consumer for this, Tay, preferred. As an interface designer, he carries hard drives to work every day, so I needed to include pockets for that size. And I knew that he didn't know much about African history, but he really wanted to learn more. So I created something I thought would be a conversation starter, a carrying stick on the side of the bag, inspired by the people of the Lesotho Kingdom in Southern Africa. Next. There's 2 carrying modes, one using the stick inspired by the Malamu. Each stick has a different ornamental design, which represents the soul and the personality of the carrier. So this would make for a fun, individualized option. And then there's a buckle in the front when it can be worn as a backpack, inspired by the Adinkra symbol for freedom, which is an ancient symbol language in modern day Ghana. Next. The final color scheme is inspired by 3D viewing glasses. This is an invention that's created by an African-American scientist named Kenneth Dunkley, and I wanted to show homage to that. And as the TA and the 73 on the pockets is in reference to tantalum, which is mined from Central Africa. It's used to create tantalum capacitors, which power everyday electronics. And a lot of people don't realize that it's the heart of Africa that powers everything we use on a daily basis, but that unethical mining has destabilized the region a great deal, and I wanted to call attention to our relationship to African resources. Next. So the goal of this bag is to remind Black people everywhere on the continent and within the diaspora that everything we wear tells a story, and it's time for us to start asking ourselves whose story we're telling. Thank you very much.
Wayne, that was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Panelists, any questions or constructive feedback?
Blaine,
Time for 1.5 maybe.
yes, hi, Blaine. I loved your story. It's such relevant context to these couple weeks that we've been living. So big congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And my question to you was, you highlighted a lot of important points, and was the goal of this project to design a bag? Was that a problem that you were given, or why did you choose it to be a bag?
That's a good question. Yeah, so the way this project started is in a previous semester, I had done a professional footwear collection, which examined the relationship between professional aesthetics and European supremacy and how we view professional things to look European. And this was like an extension to that project, looking at what other things do professionals use on a daily basis other than shoes that could still express their culture. So I looked at bags.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more.
I second that. I think it's a very interesting perspective, and the outcome is also very nicely done. I also like your illustration style. I noticed that.
Thank you.
Kind of combined with was that hand drawing or is computer drawing? So a little bit more artistic.
So yeah, the ideation was hand drawing, and then I did all the final in Photoshop.
Interesting. I have no
Thank
question.
you.
Just want to comment that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Blaine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vasak. Next, we have Elon, who's going to take us through the legend of Hydra, Castle Falls.
Hello. Perfect. Hello, everybody. My name is Elon, and my project for this semester was a toy design project. My goal for this semester was to take the essence of Hot Wheels and incorporate a new take on the present products. But before I get into the actual design of the whole thing, I want to show you a process video that showed my journey throughout the whole semester and how I got to the final design. Legend of Hydra, Castle Falls. So the story behind the playset is we have a female protagonist, the warrior. Her name is Hydra. She's on this journey to search for her father's trident. And her trusty steed, Riptide, is who she travels with on this journey. He actually is the inspiration behind the Hot Wheel and the main hot piece of the project. And you also have side pieces such as Tsunami, who is the monster, the enemy that she has to defeat. And Castle Falls is the setting where this whole adventure takes place. When we look at the inspiration behind my project, if you look to the left, you can see a lot of underwater themes for the top pictures, which I tried to get some features of Atlantis, and also a lot of the underwater creatures as well, including the serpent, to really capture what the setting was. Additionally, I have inspiration from different illustrations which have a ton of color and fun, but at the same time, they have this detail to them that brings a maturity that really brings the story together, and I wanted to get that idea across with my illustrations as well. A underlining theme that I like to have in my project was having it be gender neutral, actually, because a lot of Hot Wheels are geared towards boys, especially since I was growing up, that was always the boys' toy to play with. But how could I integrate the use of pinks and purples and have this female warrior, but also have it geared towards both boys and girls at the same time? When we look at some of my prototypes, the top left, that is the prototype that got me inspired for the whole project. It has the car going down, and the button at the bottom changes the background to black and white into color. And I wanted to have a project where all of the features were actuated by the car, like it's actually triggering the model. So as we moved towards each one of the prototypes, I explored through appearance and also the scale of the model, where eventually I ended up making a model similar to the last one, but a lot smaller, because not only is it easier for production, but it also has a centralized area where all the actions take place. With the final design, here it is, the hero shot. The car goes down the track, down the serpent's tail, and actuates the first action, which is the falling of the first part of the castle. As you go down the second tier, the crystals in the cave fall like dominoes. And the last part is, can you make it alive from the serpent, or are you dead to fight for another day? Legend of Hydra was created to bridge the gap between boy and girl toys while exploring the use of storytelling and adventure. Through this project, I've learned a great deal, not only about toys, but the importance of toys in a kid's growth. I've had fun with this project, and I hope you have too. Thank you.
Lon, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. Judges, we have approximately 4 minutes if you have questions.
Lon, hi.
Yes.
It was a great project. Thank you. My question is, have you put any thought into the manufacturing aspect of this product?
So a lot of it will be, oh, sorry.
Two prongs question. And were you able to test this prototype with kiddos? What age group were they?
I unfortunately was not able to test it with kiddos, but we did a lot of prototyping more internally. I wish I had gotten it out there a little bit more. As for the manufacturing, the whole core of the project would be injection molded, and the track is extruded through the parts as well. And then you have a lot of the, there's blank spots in the pieces where you can put stickers for the details.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work. Nice work. I really like your story, the story you created, and very nice illustration. My question is, since you have this beautiful, interesting story and, beautiful characters, how did you make that connection? Like how do you tell the story? Bring the kids into this story when they're playing with this toy.
So not only do I have this underlying story that goes with the product, but I wanted the project to be more for the kids' imagination, because I know growing up, I I had Hot Wheels, but I didn't have any playset to go with it. But I definitely had a ton of imagination to put on a table and imagine it being in a jungle or a underwater world where it was like, how can I make it also free but have a guideline for the story as well? So that was where I wanted to keep it less limited for the child's imagination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chin. We have a few seconds left. I don't want the gentleman from the automotive industry to feel like they can't chime in on the products and vice versa. So
I'll say,
you gentlemen have some thoughts while we have a few seconds.
obviously I grew up with Hot Wheels as well. And I have to say this is like completely unexpected, but I as well really like the backstory and the illustration style that goes with it. And I can definitely see, having kids of my own, I can see how it could appeal to both genders. So I think it's unexpected, but quite delightful. I think it's a great job.
Thank you.
I actually agree with that. And I mean, all of the projects that you guys have presented so far have really interesting backstories. I think that it's always fantastic to see creativity that has a lot of personality behind it, has a lot of meaning behind it. I'm a dad as well, so I appreciate, speaking to kids and getting kids interested in storytelling. Just overall fantastic work from start to finish tonight. The stories have been amazing, and the ideas as well.
So Leah Shu is going to be loading up her presentation. Just a reminder to all the attendees that if you have questions, please type them in the chat box. We have 3 or 4 people from the industrial design office that can answer you in real time. Also want to remind everybody, friends, family, professors, administrators, partners, that you can vote for the People's Choice Awards. If you scroll up in the chat, you'll see the link to see all of the Spring Show the Spring Show submissions. And so from those 35, you can pick your absolute favorite one, and we'll announce the winner of that scholarship at around 7:30 tonight when we end. So Leah, are you ready to present liquid cement?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Thank you for being here today. I'm Leah, and I'm going to talk to you about my project. It's about lighting design, and the name is liquid cement. So first, I'm going to present a unique and new material I created for this project. And actually, the name liquid cement is also inspired from this new material. You will know why later. And then I will share with you the process of this project. And finally, I will show you the final design. So I begin this project by doing material research, and then I decided that I wanted to work with cement, because we all know that cement is widely and commonly used in constructions and buildings, but I think that the use of this material should not be limited to that. I want to see how far I could push the boundaries by lighting cement. And in my quest to create a new material to work with for this project, I experiment a lot, like combining different materials with cement to see how they look and how they feel, what effect it created when light passed through it. And finally, I choose a combination of cement and cotton, and I will show you later about this new material. So after decided the new material, I did some sketches, which you can see at the bottom. And based on the final sketch, I made a 3D model. And on the left side is the cotton fabric I used for this new material. So this is what the new material looks like. And it's a bottom view of the light. And you can clearly see the texture. I believe it's an innovative new combination with a soft and the hard material, and the contrast between the warm light and the industrial finish of the light brings a charming, a new look to lighting design. So this is the final design, the final look. It's called the liquid cement. It's a chandelier which brings warmth, texture, and the mysterious feeling overhead illumination to any public or private space. And the combination of cement and cotton creates a new and unexpected drip-like look. So this concept expresses the relationship between light and shadow, and it creates a cozy and dreamy atmosphere. So as you can see, when you turn on the light filters through the lampshade and shines on the wall and objects in the room. Let me show you a video about the whole process. Well, I think that's pretty much about it. Let me give you a summary of what I've been talking about. First, I told you the new unique material which I made for this project. It's a combination of cement and cotton. Then I covered the process, and finally I show you the liquid cement, the chandelier, which creates a cozy and dreamy atmosphere. And actually I got my light here. I can show you more if you want, and if you have any questions or feedbacks, please ask me. And thanks for listening.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you might want to turn that on while you're fielding questions and feedback. So judges, we have a solid 5 minutes. That'll give us time for maybe 3 or 4 questions for Leah.
Yeah, hi Leah. Yeah, great job. Of course, I'm going to comment on this. I actually run a concrete watch brand, so of course, I think it's really interesting how you came up with you know, the cement for the inspiration. I'm curious, like as you kind of played with the materials, did you experiment with the cloth? Is that a custom pattern or was that appropriated already?
No, it's not customized. It's just I got the cotton fabric online. I bought that, and actually I have 2 different patterns, but I choose this one because it shows better. It have a better result. But
Yeah.
I think for further development, I think maybe I could try to customize the cotton fabric myself, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. I would encourage you to explore different patterns, and I could see potential of how the different draping and folds would happen depending on the pattern.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Panelists, we got another, I'm sorry, judges, we have another 3 minutes.
Very, very interesting combination of materials. Did you discover this by accident or discover this by trying out different kind of fabric or different kind of material in combined with fabric? How did you get down to this final decision of combining these two?
Actually this project is I made in design project 1 class, and at the beginning we have 2 options. We can do lighting design or furniture design, and we begin our project by doing material research, like I said, and I decided that I want to work with cement. And after that, we did many material experiments, like combining different material. And I have actually 21 new materials, but I think this one is more creative. It have a great potential. So I decided that I want to work with this new material.
Good to know that you down select from 21 new materials to this one.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Leah?
Hi.
It was great. What I loved about it is that I perceive concrete as something very hard and angular and thick, and you balanced it out with the most delicate lace, the most feminine type of approach. So those two polar opposites is just something very fascinating there. And I would love to see what you're going to do with this next. I mean, this is just the beginning, I think, and very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Madison. I'm here to present my project, Ease De-Stress Mask. The new strain virus has killed millions of people recently. To protect ourselves and people around us, mask application is one of the most effective ways to stop the spread. So one of the problems we see mask in the US is the vast cultural differences. Some cities in Asia, people wear masks to battle against air pollution. But in the US, however, masks are often connected to negative subjects such as crime and sickness. This begs the question, why are sunglasses, scarves, hats are socially acceptable and fashionable, but masks are seen as aggressive and masky? So the problem is, how may we design protection equipment for use in a virus pandemic, flu, or air pollution caused by industry, fire, or other natural conditions, at the same time, motivate people to wear it to stop the spread? So I narrowed down to one direction, de-stress mask, to assist people with mental health. So there are many devices on the market, such as the Apple Watch, that help people with physical health. But what about our mental well-being? How do we pull ourselves out of stressful situations? To alleviate stress, our breathing is very important. Sometimes all we need is a simple reminder to adjust our intake and output. So this story is about a single mom, Jen, is under a lot of pressure during the pandemic, and she's going out for groceries with the boys, and she feels stressed out on the bus. And her Apple Watch vibrates to let her know her breathing pattern is off balance, and asks if she would like to do a 30 seconds breathing adjustment, and she feels much better. So these are my concept sketches and mock-ups. According to studies, left cheeks display a greater intensity of emotion, which observers find more aesthetically pleasing. So comparing the left to the right on my page, which faces are smiling, we can see that the asymmetrical shaped masks leaves a blank space on the left side of the face so that it conveys more facial expression. So moving to design evolution, the CAD model went through several adjustments while moving from the concept sketch to CAD model exploration. And here's my final model. Viewing from the right to the left, the shape of the strap gradually becomes narrow in width. The mask contains a sensor that monitors users' breathing pattern, and also an airborne conduction, a charging port, and a portable charging case. the cases includes a mask, charging case, and a filter container. And each piece of the case are optional accessories and has the ability to attach and detach from one another. And portable cases can provide protection for the mask and the filters when they're not in use. And they represent my main users, like users who have fast-paced lifestyles, users who travels a lot, and users who are conscious about their health. And here is a short video I would like to share. So this is the project that aims to change the expression of traditional mask to a healthy and a fashionable way. And thank you for sitting in on my presentation. I open up the floor for questions.
Thank you, Madison. Judges, our last presentation before the break. Feedback for Madison, constructive criticism, questions?
I had a question, Madison. When you're developing this, did you test like comfort thresholds, like how long you could wear this in comfort? Because I think, you know, with COVID going on right now, a lot of the issues with a lot of masks is, you know, the length of time you can wear it, especially like, you know, I know this is more for lifestyle, but just out of curiosity, how did that shape your development?
So I have a page that is a pinpoint that my mask, there's a page of the exploded view. Actually, it shows my mask contains mint oil and batteries. It actually can bring a big air wind flow in the mask, the shell, inside of the shell. So you can wear it as long as you want.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think that's also my question relating to the airflow, because I see through the video, I see, you know, you have perforation on the plastic shell to make sure there's airflow, but in the end, you also need to put a cover on to cover up those perforations. So what is your thinking on, like, from the material standpoint, how do you ensure the air can still come in and out through the layers of fabric?
So the materials is just a double layer, breathable, soft, mesh texture material. And when you cover it on the front, you can still breathe through. And inside of the shell, it has a windmill that can help you to bring more air, more fresh air and wind into the mask. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. But I feel like during the whole process, I definitely need to like explore. I feel like because lots of stores closed, and I can't really go out to like text more, like as more materials. So I was kind of a little bit limited by the material, but definitely the material, the fabric of the strap is breathable, it's soft, and is what is called, and it's adjustable, and is elastic. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Nice mock-up, by the way.
Thank you.
Judges, we have another minute if you want to throw out an additional question before we go to break.
Yeah, just one quick one. I really like it. Obviously, super. I'm just curious if you were able to test with other people, get any feedback. How did people like the aesthetic? Did they see themselves being able to wear something like that throughout the day or in the office? Any feedback on that?
Yes, I have. I sent my I mailed my mask to my couple of stakeholders, and they really like it. And not just because my prototype is not like a real has a real de-stress, breathing, the monitor in it, but other would just from the the appearance, but they really like it.
Yeah, it's very elegant. I like it.
Thank you so much.
So thank you, Madison. Thank you, Leah, Elon, Blaine, Zobia, me. We are getting some comments from the attendee, both in the chat box and outside of the chat box via text, that I think the word that I heard is that these were powerful presentations, and I'd agree. Before we break, I just want to extend another thank you to a few of the administrators that joined us this evening. I think Dr. Stevens may or may not be on the line. We heard from her earlier. Sarita.
I'm still here. Hi.
Stick around, the second half is just as good, maybe even better. Welcome back, judges. Welcome back, attendees. We are now transitioning into the 4 transportation projects. We're going to start with David Kim. He's going to be presenting Audi Morpheus. As David is setting up, again, another reminder to vote for People's Choice. I believe all the links are in the chat box. Certainly the 10 projects you're going to see tonight are in there, but the additional 25 from Spring Show are going to be there as well. David, how you doing? You ready?
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Ready when you are.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to our presentation. My name is David White Kim, and we are Audi Morpheus. We have 7 members on our team. We have Yomar and myself from industrial design, as well as UI UX and interior architecture design. Our objective was to create an adaptive workspace experience for San Franciscans. Our persona is Eli Davis. He lives in the Sunset District in San Francisco, and he is a manager of the Warriors NBA team. His income is $11 million, and his hobby is surfing. And this is the storyboard of our persona, and this is also how we will present our final designs for each department. So 3 days before, Eli schedules a surfing trip to Santa Cruz for 3 days later after checking the surf forecast via smart glassable display. And 3 days later, Eli wakes up and gets the day going. Eli checks the weather information of the day on the bathroom mirror display. And later, Eli travels to Santa Cruz once a week to escape from the city. After he arrives, Eli will enjoy his morning surfing session.
Ari, show me the players' performances this week.
Okay, displaying the performances now.
After he gets back home, he interacts with Ari, the AI system, to review the player's performances.
Eli, you have a meeting at 4:30 p.m. at the Audi Central Lounge. It will take 20 minutes with current traffic. Would you like to proceed?
Cool. Let's go.
Ari notifies Eli there is a meeting at the Audi Central Lounge at 4:30 p.m. While on the way to the Audi Central Lounge, Eli uses his interactive table display and AR display for a meeting. And when he arrives, Eli comes into the scheduled in-person meeting for a player's trade. The Audi Central Lounge offers an open space where members and employees can socialize and relax with the view. After Eli gets back home, he zens out in the indoor atrium to recharge himself for the next day. So moving on to the design process, the project initiated as a super sedan or a grand coupe. We explored several different packages before refinement. And during the refinement, our vehicle's plan view was inspired by the surfboard. These two were the chosen key sketches. This was a geometric and architectural direction. And this the pure and more organic direction. This was the final direction chosen. We wanted to keep the side surfacings pure and organic while keeping all the busier design elements to the front and the rear. The organic surfacing is inspired by our design language called Sculpted by the Wind. And here's a 360 walk-around view of the vehicle. And these are the actions done related to the story. And here's our final concept video. Please enjoy.
You have a meeting at 4:30 p.m. at the Audi Central Lounge. Would you like to proceed?
Cool. Let's go. Hey, Ari, let's go to Santa Cruz.
Okay, heading to Santa Cruz. You have an AR meeting scheduled in 3 minutes. Would you like to start the meeting?
All right, let's do it.
You have arrived at Santa Cruz.
Thank you everyone for your time. We are Team Morpheus, and again, we apologize for the previous inconveniences. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, David. So I imagine we're gonna hear from our judges from the automotive industry, but again, let's keep it open to the product designers as well. Any feedback for David and his team?
Yes, I thought it was an excellent presentation, a lot of different elements to that. Where did you find a lot of your inspiration for the overall design?
So over vehicle-wise, at first we initiated our project with the design language in mind called Sculpted by the Wind. This is because the house is actually a beach cliff house right next to the ocean beach. And because of this, we realized most of the surfacing, all the ocean, all the sand beaches, they're sculpted by the wind. So that's where all of our inspiration for design came from. And again, also looking at the architectural design for an overall plan view of the architectural design for the house. I'm not sure you noticed, but it is organic shape with rounded edges. But if you actually look at the windows, they are actually very, they're actually very geometric. And because of that, with the roof, with the design image of the house on the plan view and then over a vehicle, it is again sculpted by the wind. So that's where our inspiration came from.
So David, I'll start with the parts, which I think were sort of some of the visuals were really interesting. You guys obviously spent a lot of time sort of supporting your story with some of the animations. I think the overall aesthetic of the vehicle on its own, like just the very look of it, ended up being very modern, and it's an attractive vehicle. I guess I would have liked to see more connection with the story and the interior of the vehicle. It seems like a lot of it is about experience within the vehicle, getting out of the city, and a lot of the animations actually focused more on the architecture of the home and the lounge than the vehicle itself. I think there were some nice shots of the UI, but it would have been nice to see what the actual design of the interior felt like, either with the 2D sketching or the 3D. And then I guess I would have been, I'll have one more comment and I'll just a question. Well, I'll start with the question. I guess thinking of the person you chose, you honed in very quickly on a very, very wealthy individual. It would have been interesting to understand like how this solution might bridge across different types of people, not just a millionaire, but somebody who, like, how could a millionaire and somebody who's making very modest living both encounter this product, and how could they use it? Is it available to both of them, or is this an incredibly exclusive product?
So for the,
a little deeper into that would have been kind of interesting to hear.
Yes, so when we first initiated the project, again, of course, our persona was a millionaire. However, the overall vehicle target market and the packaging itself was based on the Audi E7 package, which is a little bit bigger sedan. We also didn't want to go to like too small or something, because we still wanted to give the person space, while this person also wanted to maintain this overall sleekness of the vehicle rather than having like a boxcar or something. So because of this, I would say the overall target market could also be raised down to more of a higher middle class or a wealthier middle class, but I wouldn't say it's for everyone, considering it is also a luxury brand, which is an Audi. So I guess that's where we were coming from.
And then the last comment was it would have been interesting to see a little bit more integration. I think the start of a surfboard as a very pure object that's sort of timeless and very been developed through functional needs and sort of learning, by understanding what shapes work better for them. It would have been interesting to see that integrated into the vehicle a little bit more. It seems like it was just kind of placed on the vehicle, but if that actually like became part of the vehicle shape, or because you said it was inspired by that, but it actually, when it was attached to the vehicle, it sort of like continued the vehicle form versus just being an object placed on top of it.
Gotcha. I totally understand that. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you, Nick. I think we have a few more seconds left for another quick closing question.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I think, I would agree that some interesting form study with the this kind of streamlined fuselage type theme is quite cool. More covered up wheels. I do agree that you have the makings of some interesting kind of mobility type services here with the vehicle itself, the house, the Audi lounge, the assistant. And I think it would be great to build that backstory a little bit more, and that maybe that is your opportunity to show how this is a broader service that could touch a wider market than just the ultra affluent. And I think that could be an interesting component that I think you can still add to the project, because you touched on a lot of that, but I didn't get a I didn't get that story necessarily from your presentation. So aesthetically, I think strong, but maybe try to build out that backstory a little better.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Derek. David, thank you very much for working through that. Next, we have Santiago Bastidas.
Hi, my name is Santiago, and this is the Audi Elysium project that I did with some of my teammates, with some of my peers. Next slide. So this is the Audi Elysium. Its target is San Francisco in 2045. Next slide. And this is just for you to see, to meet my team. A lot of I&D, but there was also some graphic design, architecture, and others. Next slide. So the main keywords for this project and the three main visuals that I wanted to represent was the idea of seamlessness, personal, and exclusive. Seamlessness, I wanted to have the whole project feel as a seamless experience. So this word really targets the whole experience. And personal was more for like the interiors of the car and the architecture. And on the exclusive side, I wanted to target more of the exteriors of the building and the car as well. So this is sort of like the statement that I made for the project. We foresee that in the year 2045, the world will greatly expand on the idea of globalization. People will no longer have a singular place to call home. Far distance travel will become a routine rather than an event, and therefore a global system will be necessary, a system that we call Elysium. So the whole basic of the project is to create this personal dockable space. And since I had the opportunity of working really close with architecture, I thought it would be great to create an architectural piece that really complements this personal dockable space that's coming from the transportation side of it. This is a journey map of the short video that I'll show you at the end. We focused on the journey of him starting at the airport and going to this Elysium architecture for Audi. And the reason was because we want to target people that travel around the world. We want to create this project as a holistic and global experience. The first approach to the project naturally would be to start with the travel aspect of it. This was the main inspiration board that we used for Audi. Audi, very technical, and obviously I wanted to include architecture into the influence of the car as well. This is one of the visuals that the architecture department created for the project. This is sort of like the club, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but there's a term that's used nowadays. It's called the Soho House. And what a Soho House is, it's this sort of club that allows the users to have a home anywhere they go. So part of that club is this community of people that are part of it. So I wanted to create this club as a communal and social space as well. And this was part of the furniture design that we created in order to complement some of the architecture. And this is the main part of the project, like how does transportation come within all this social and club and Soho House idea? Well, it was using this personal dockable space that is really part of more of the architecture rather than the car. And that sort of drove my design to be this very simple but very horizontal element in order to be able to be connected to the architecture. And here you can see some of the integration that we did with this personal space. You can see the living room, and you can see some of the controls within the interior. The interior is based on the layout of the living room. So all the materials, all the colors and textures that we are using for this space complements the architecture and is supposed to have this seamless element. As I was saying, these are just more visuals of what the integration would look like in the end result. We will show you how this whole connection will work in the video. And these are some of the functions that we decided to add for this space. It being a travel, very influenced project, we decided to include fitted luggage, and there's a rail system, which you will see in the video. These are some of the final shots of what the car is looking like. Again, very influenced by architecture, very horizontal in nature. And these are like the key elements for the design. We decided to use this very special foldable fabric on the greenhouse because we wanted the experience of the interior to be completely new when in the architecture. So that meant sort of getting away from what a traditional greenhouse would have. There's like no windows, and it would have this element of like being gone once it's connected to the architecture. So we decided to use this foldable fabric. And then there's a theoretical system that is being used with rails across the whole space that sort of drives this foldable fabric to a side, and it hides it when you're connected to the architecture. Some more shots of like the final design. More shots. And this was like a lighting element that we decided to include that sort of like tells the users outside that the car is being disconnected from the bottom portion from the skateboard. Some more shots. And here you can see a little bit about the development and some of the sketches that I used. Very horizontal, as I said, in nature, but also taking a lot of inspiration from different sources. The whole idea was to use very simple geometric shapes, but having this very organic and fluid contours within the shape. So you can see very simple, you can see some of the quattro elements from the brand, and those are kind of guiding the car to really plant it on the ground. But also we're using fabrics and materials that are not so proper to automotive design. So this is where we became a little bit more fluid and dynamic. You can see the concept video.
Hi, John. What can I help you with?
May 18th, 10 a.m. Pick me up at San Francisco Airport.
All set. May 18th, 10 a.m. Audi will pick you up at San Francisco Airport. Traffic is light. You will arrive at 10:25 a.m.
And that was the whole project. Thank you, guys.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Great visual work, great renderings, everything is fantastic. I'm not a transportation designer. I do realize that there was so much information, so much hard work went into this presentation, so great work. My question is overall commentary. You might not have the answers to this, but when reimagining the future, there's so many obstacles to our future. Currently, we're living through a pandemic. So my question is, what were some of the driving forces for your team what was the biggest problem that you were trying to solve? And also, why is there a need to bring in that component of the car interior into the building? What was the advantage of that? Because it seemed like so much energy is being used by lifting this thing up to the apartment unit. Can you describe it very shortly to someone who's not a transportation designer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was like you said, there was a lot of information because there was a lot of people involved. But yeah, the main problem that we were trying to sort of like address was that in the future I was really visioning something that is so global, and I envision a future job where you have to live 3 years in Japan and 6 months in San Francisco, and it becomes like this very hectic life. We wanted to bring one of the components of the car that really becomes this personal space anywhere you go. So it's kind of like thinking about like your cell phone. Your phone only has the apps that you have and chose to put them there. So it became like this very personal device, and we want this space of the car to become the same thing and be able to go with you wherever you go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Santiago.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vasak. So up next, we have Sodium Na with his team. He is going to be presenting Citroen Amity.
Hello, everyone. This is Sodium. Thanks for coming tonight. I will present Citroen Amity. This is a collaboration project. We have Iris Judy is from the graphic design, Megan from the web new media, and Yomar and I is from transportation design. So in Amity, we want you to feel the joyful artistic feeling, and no matter who you are, a beginner, a regular, or pro, you will find your love in Amity. In order to recreate people's car, we actually have 3 different personas. The first persona, Sam, our goal is engaging digital native to our car. Our second persona is Scott. We want to re-stimulate the enthusiasm of the driving. And our third persona is Julia, because she is a mom with 2 kids who need to take care of during the driving. So the stressless experience is very important for her. Now let's experience Citroen Amity together. in Amity exterior design, we integrate this element to make more dynamic feeling. And we also really spend effort on the package development. After we analyze the user need, the dynamic inside the car, and also the air efficiency. So we finalize this whole design to the final direction. I will show later. So this is the final direction for the design. Also, so in the interior, the modularity, customization are our design focus. So there's different kinds of steering wheel that we created for our different driving need. Intuitiveness, controllability, and simplicity are our focus. We brainstorm different solutions and we narrow down to the final direction. And here is the final design for the steering wheel. For the car interior, the seat design, we focus on the comfortableness, modularity, and activeness. Here's the inspiration. At the front seat, the comfort cushion and also the responsive motion mechanic create dynamic driving experience. And however, in the rear seat, the modularity brings a versatile seating solution for the users. We also made integrated control buttons. We focus on the integration, the authentic feeling, and also the intuitiveness of the control. Here's the example of the controlling the air vent. And here is our final clay model with our clay model, Yomar. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming to the presentation. My name is Sodium Na.
Thank you, Sodium. That was fantastic. We have time for maybe 2 questions. Nick or Derek, do you guys want to?
Yeah, sure. Quick question, Sodium. Can you tell me about your inspiration behind the color concept and the materials you used?
Yeah, so the color we actually choose the orange, which is the most responsive and active color. So we want to create those kind of fun, joyful feeling. Another color is violet. The violet have some mystery feeling, but also bring a lot of like French artistic feeling to the car. That resembles the quiet, the the element of the future electric car. And the material, we really focus on the sustainable design. Mostly we use a fiber instead of the leather. And also we kind of make the car more like product feeling. Many material can be inject mold and in the future, and to reduce down the cost of the production. This also helps for us for create a people's car that everyone can afford, a fun car.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed the gamified component, I think, especially with respect to the controls and the steering. I think that approach is quite unique. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really, I thought the exterior wise, I mean, it's a very different kind of very funky looking vehicle, but it's cool. It has a lot of charm that some of the Citroens have. It reminds me a little bit of like a French take on the Newson work from maybe a little over a decade ago, but a part of the automotive world that really isn't that developed is this kind of fun, kind of pop feel to vehicles. So I think you kind of hit that one right on the head. The interior was compelling, especially the IP. There's a lot of detail, and obviously you were showing some of the, not just the aesthetic, but the features, which I think is always great. One thing I would encourage you is to kind of, the project feels like 2/3 complete. I think the seats are interesting, but they don't particularly feel like I would want to sit in them. They don't know, some of the seat references you had are these timeless classics, and I'm not sure you captured the seats quite yet. And then I would like to see more of like a friendship around the vehicle. Like it felt very driver centric, which is cool in a way, but how do I bring other people into that vehicle? How do I have a shared experience within that car? I think completing the vehicle from the inside. So you've got kind of the IP done, but I'd like to see more, and I'd like to know like more about the storage, more about that seat. You said you had one slide where you talked about packaging and the gear and the kind of the other things in life that you bring along with you to have fun, are beyond the vehicle itself. I would encourage you to explore more of that, but you've got a really interesting aesthetic baseline to apply to these other elements, including the products themselves. And I think it would be a more complete project if you included that into it.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sodium.
Thank you.
So we have one project left. Max is going to be loading up so he can present his VW project. I guess you guys can tell I'm not a trans guy if I called it Citroën. Is that a dead giveaway?
Do I have control, Antonio? Cool. Hi, guys. My name is Max Bennon. I'm a recent grad from AAU, and I'm happy to show you this project that I created, Westphalia by Volkswagen. This is something I did under quarantine, so this was like super inspiring for me to sort of kind of live vicariously through this project. I started with a super simple objective. I wanted to find a way to connect people with sustainable experiences. However, I found that people won't always make sustainable choices in their products just for the sake of it being sustainable. And also that these sustainable experiences don't always fit into people's lifestyles. So I wanted to use vehicle design and a brand to bridge the gap between the two. So in this case, Volkswagen provides the drive to connect the two. So this Volkswagen experience comes with two main contents. The vehicle, obviously, it's a specialty vehicle. It's a revived Volkswagen Westphalia. It's a 4x4 camper van. So it's really great for off-road adventure, but not only that, just adventuring really far and having everything you need to be able to live off the grid. So I thought that was the perfect vehicle to sort of reimagine. And this is sort of next generation, like in the next 5 years. But in order to get people into that vehicle and without them being a heavy enthusiast and knowing exactly where to go, I wanted to provide this vehicle with a purpose as well. So I thought that for these vehicles in the future, so other Volkswagens can come with different quests. This one specifically comes with this journey quest. So this will compel the traveler to go further and experience these feel-good moments that have these sustainable values connected to them. And this resulted in a kind of a special project for my workflow. Specifically, I created a storyboard versus starting from just sketching like just the look and feel. I started with the journey, and I started developing the vehicle through the compositions And I was learning a lot of environment design and different elements to create this story. It's kind of like this foundational launching point where I can take this project even further, but through the story, it's pretty fully designed. And to better understand these values that the target market may have, I did a lot of field research. And initially I wanted to go out and travel and see some of these Westphalia vehicles in person, but due to the situation the last few months, I did a lot of virtual field research, and really used Instagram, social media a lot, because this lifestyle is just jam-packed with great foundation to find different people, how they use these vehicles, how they live in them. And I reached out to several of them and started conversations. Several of them were very helpful, and I was showing them sketches of the interior, specifically interior stuff, because they do a lot of do-it-yourself customization to fit their lifestyles more. So, you can see on the right there, I'm showing sketches and showing them basically elements and seeing if that's something that they would use or something they've seen before. So this was really inspiring, and it really helped me create a more desirable design and experience.
This story begins with our traveler taking this young tree sapling on a journey to a national park, which has set a designated planting site in collaboration with Volkswagen. Along the way, the traveler will experience the vehicle's capabilities and find comfort in the RoboDog companion's ability to help navigate through new terrain. The layout of the vehicle needs to support livability, but also support people's active lifestyles. 3 zones, the gear bunk, kitchenette, and driving cabin, create an interior space that is essential for recreating the Westphalia spirit. As the traveler reaches the planting site deep into the park, they set out to complete the quest on foot. In a world where sustainability is a core value, this concept finds a way to connect people with a feel-good experience powered by a design and journey that embodies and empowers a sustainable and active lifestyle.
So thanks for your time, and I want to give a special thanks to all my peers throughout school and obviously my mentors. Thank you for a great experience and really kind of reshaping the way I think about things. It's cool to see after 4 years at school. Thanks.
Thank you, Max. That was fantastic. We actually have probably enough time for at least 2 questions. 2 comments, 2 or 3 comments.
This is obviously, something I'm very excited by, Max, because of the type of work that Rivian does. And this idea of bringing sustainability and mobility into the outdoors is just a real natural fit. I really think that the visuals are excellent. The renderings, I'm like, I could go back and just kind of stare at them, and there's so much little nuggets of just great work in there. I wish actually when you were describing your research process, I wanted you to actually describe an example. So I guess my question would be, can you walk us through quickly just a quick example of something you learned that you didn't know going into this project from your research, and how did you apply it to the vehicle?
Yeah, so I think the main one that I show in that example there was the gear bunk area, because I wanted to have the static sleeping area, but then also what do you do with that area below it? So through the research, I found a lot of guys that do a lot of like mountain biking, or even with electric mountain bikes, especially as like a last mile vehicle. So for this example, I decided to basically start with that and then also the storage. So finding people online that have like all of the different drawers, and they use a lot of roof cargo as well. So little areas where I can kind of kill two birds in one stone. So the staircase leading up to, or the ladder leading up to the bed are they're pull-out drawers, but the part where you put your hand under to open it is also a stepping point. So little areas like that where it's just yeah, killing two birds with one stone, and mainly for cargo and kind of a sleeker design.
Any other thoughts? We have time for at least one more.
Mine was more of a comment. I mean, I think it's a great project, really thoughtful, totally relevant to our time. Shocking that nobody already doesn't make this vehicle, quite frankly. I also personally own a Westphalia, so I'm a little biased, but really nice job, beautiful illustration, and I thought really thoughtful thinking, way of looking at the architecture and how to break up the interior. So well done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, judges. Thank you, students. Okay. So we would like to spend the the next few minutes, just congratulating our graduates for the class of 2020.